Welcome everyone. Welcome to another insightful episode of Global Focus, where we decode the shifting tides of geopolitics and their impact on India and the world. Today, we dive deep into the topic that's reshaping global trade and strategy, the Middle Corridor, a route born of the new Eurasian geopolitics. To break down its significance, we are honored to have with us Dr. Adityanjee, President of the Council for Strategic Affairs, a distinguished expert in international relations and strategic affairs. Dr. Adityanjee, welcome to Global Focus. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Sinha, for inviting me on your platform, Global Focus. We always have a good and stimulating discussion.
Yes, sir. So, moving to my first question, what is the Middle Corridor? Why is this Middle Corridor important for India's trade and economy?
So, Mr. Sinha, we live in a modern world, where wars are not the norm, and geopolitics revolves around geoeconomics. All the countries are trying to get advantage in terms of trade
Right.
to boost their economies. Like a couple of years ago, the Prime Minister of India told Mr. Putin, this is not an era of war.
Yeah.
Wars drain the resources of a nation besides loss of manpower.
Right, sir.
So there is an attempt from all the sides to improve the trade connectivity to their best advantage.
Yeah.
So you have to see that most of the trading nations are the European nations, United States, which are heavily, actually at this time, consumer nations, and world's factory is China. So let's see what are the existing Eurasian trade routes, because connectivity in Europe and Asia is somewhat challenging. So there is a traditional sea route or maritime route. We improved on connectivity by building the Suez Canal.
Yeah.
What it did was to reduce the sea transit time significantly by bypassing the Horn of Africa, the whole journey about Horn of Africa. So it was an advantage, and this is one of the trade routes used for Eurasian connectivity. This is the traditional sea route. Then there's a northern corridor which goes through Russia and actually connects China, Russia, and then rest of the Europe. This is the established trade route because goods are produced in China and they are transported across the northern trade route, which is very well developed. It's around 10,000 kilometers. At the beginning of the Ukraine-Russia war, it was transporting around, 100 million tons a year. And it was generating significant revenue for Russia.
I see.
Now, with European sanctions on Russia, alternative trade routes became important. Middle corridor is a trade route which is still in making. It was initially proposed around 2000, and it's a project actually mainly supported by Turkey.
Okay.
And there's a heavy European investment into it. So compared to the established northern trade route, which is going through Russia, Middle corridor is a little bit smaller or shorter. It's around 7,000 kilometers.
Okay.
It is also called TITR, Trans-Caspian International Trade Route, because it involves, land, sea, rail, train, freight train connectivity across the nations across Caspian Sea.
I see.
Overall, it would be the shortest trade route
Oh,
when fully developed. The infrastructure is poor. The average transit time in the northern trade route is around 14 days. It can go up to 21 days. And if there's a backlog, it can go up to 40 days. But middle corridor will have a transit time of 13 to 21 days. And sometimes it can go up to 60 days. The tonnage going through middle corridor increased very significantly, multifold, because of European sanctions on the Russia. The northern trade route, the tonnage decreased by 34%, and middle corridor kind of doubled or almost tripled the tonnage to now around 5 million tons a year. So that is nothing as compared to northern trade route, but it is increasing. And a lot of countries are interested in it. From Indian perspective, what is more important is international north-south transit corridor. India does not have a land border with either Central Asian country
yeah.
or countries that are around the Caspian Sea. So ultimately, you still have to use the, maritime route for tonnage to go either through the traditional sea route, through Red Sea, Suez Canal to Europe, or you can use India's developed Chabahar port in Iran and from there to land route, through Iran, Afghanistan, Iran, and to Central Asian countries to Russia, and from there to Europe. Now, international north-south transport corridor has a transit time of 25 to 30 days. Compared to 7,000 kilometers of middle corridor, it is 7,200 kilometers. And actually, it has good tonnage. INSTC now can transport up to 15 million tons a year, whereas middle corridor is at a third place, 6 million tons a year. So from India's perspective, yes, any transport connectivity is good, especially if we are not paying for it, because India is not investing in middle corridor. India is investing in INSTC.
Okay.
And that is supported by Russia, that is supported by Iran and India.
So,
And it is somewhat more developed than the middle corridor at this point in time.
I'm sorry to
And
interrupt you.
I just want to make one more point, one brief point.
Okay.
From India's perspective, in September 2023, United States sponsored another transport corridor called IMEC.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
India,
Middle East.
European Economic Corridor.
Yes, sir.
Now that's a late entrant. It has not been developed as yet.
Mm-hmm.
As it develops, India's connectivity for trade and tonnage will increase. So besides INSTC, India would be able to rely on IMEC. And the advantage of IMEC for India is twofold. One is that IMEC totally bypasses Pakistan, which is a troublesome state for India.
Yeah.
That's why we developed Chabar port. And secondly, it will also bypass, when fully developed, the Suez Canal, because sometimes because of terrorist activities now, all these, Yemen problem, Houthis problems. Uh, so that will give you, because it'll go through Israel's Haifa port. So Suez Canal issues will be bypassed.
Okay.
So IMEC and INSTC are the transport corridors India should focus on and invest in, and let other people develop the middle corridor or BRI or whatever they want to do. But Northern Corridor is already established.
Mhm. So, what are the geopolitical risks in this corridor, INSTC?
Look, INSTC, the geopolitical risks are the US sanctions on Iran.
Mhm.
There was a delay because of US sanctions on Iran, and uh, US actually exempted the Chabar port, and India's investment almost $500 million into Chabar port from the Katsa sanctions.
Okay.
So till US and Iran are not able to come to normal relationships, there will be some sort of sanctions, just like there are on northern corridor of Russia, there are European sanctions. Interesting, how geopolitics evolves. The tonnage going through northern corridor dropped by 34% because of European sanctions on Russia. But when this Houthi conflict started,
Okay.
the tonnage going through the traditional maritime sea route dropped. So despite the sanctions, the northern corridor became more safer. And despite the sanctions, the tonnage started picking up on northern corridor. So you have to understand that these connectivity projects are good. More and more options are good. And even if one route is not accessible to you, maybe another route should be accessible to it. So in that sense, India is also taking another initiative. And that's it would have far-reaching consequences, as you know, that as the Arctic ice melts, the Northern Sea route has already become, important for our trade, this thing. India has with Russia this arrangement called Chennai Vladivostok, you know, trade route, which is a maritime trade route, so that India can use the Northern Sea route. So that again gives an alternative as India becomes a major trading nation, starts increasing the export. So you will have multiple routes available to you depending upon the convenience.
Yes. So, moving to my third question, will the middle corridor reduce China's economic dominance in Eurasia?
Actually, no. No. China has BRI, but China benefits from middle corridor and they are kind of complementary to each other.
Okay.
As I said that, Turkey and European Union are developing middle corridor because they want to reduce dependent on Russia's northern trade route, okay, northern corridor. In fact, European Union is going to invest around 18.5 billion euros in middle corridor because it's not so well developed. The ports, the BTK railways, uh, the terminals, all these things require a lot of investment. The road transport needs to be increased. So European Union is willing to do that because they would want to reduce the dominance on Russia. On the other hand, China, though it has used the northern corridor traditionally, China is also not happy using Russian territory to transport the goods. Because number one, China has to pay some fees to Russia, and China and Russia, although they have good relationships, currently in the era of Ukraine-Russia war, but in the long run, they have suspicions about each other. So China also wants to reduce its dependence on connectivity through Russia. That's why they were trying to promote BRI. And BRI and Middle Corridor will be complementary to each other. They are not coordinated with each other, but it will actually benefit China because then China can use BRI, the CPEC, and all that sort of thing, but also will be able to use the Middle Corridor because Middle Corridor is basically Trans-Caspian, the countries around the Caspian Sea and the so-called OTS, Organization of Turkic States, improve the infrastructure and connectivity there. But Turkish goal is to have access to Central Asia. And Central Asian landmass is sitting between Europe, Central Asia, and then China. So anything, any connectivity that actually improves Eurasian connectivity and bypasses Russia is beneficial to China.
And do you think India can counter China's influence in Central Asia?
Well, India can, India should, but India has been a laggard. And my one, pet peeve is India not having land access to the Central Asia because of adverse occupation of Pakistan occupied Ladakh.
I see.
If India has full control over India's territory, union territory of Ladakh, UT of Ladakh, that includes Pakistan occupied Ladakh. India would have land connectivity to Afghanistan through the Wakhan corridor, which bridges the de jure Indian land territory and the Central Asian countries. And this access to Wakhan corridor would be very important in India in future for India to spread its geopolitical influence in the Central Asian region. So sooner or later, we will have to acquire back or take back our territory in UT of Ladakh that an enemy nation is occupying. And then, if we can do that, India will benefit a lot from the Middle Corridor. Because then you can bypass everything, the conflict in the traditional maritime route, routing through sea. Sea route, maritime route is always cheaper compared to land connectivity. So if you see, the cost would be much less if you are using the maritime route. The cost would be higher for the Middle Corridor because things are not very well developed. But once it develops, the cost between so-called northern route and the Middle Corridor would become essentially similar once Middle Corridor is developed. So what we need is land access to the Middle Corridor rather than sea access going through either INSTC or through, the traditional maritime route does not give any advantage to India in terms of connecting through the Middle Corridor. So the only thing that will help is, going through the Central Asian landmass.
Okay. And how can India benefit from investing in the Middle Corridor?
Well, as I said, there's no benefit to India for investing in the Middle Corridor. India has limited economic resources. India should continue to invest in international north-south transport corridor, as India is rightly doing, and India should invest in IMAC. Let other people develop the middle corridor, and let's reoccupy our land in adverse possession so we can have Central Asian connectivity. So you will have multiple routes for trading, the traditional sea route that goes through the Red Sea and Suez Canal, the alternative route that will go through Haifa port of Israel, the IMAC, and then international north-south transport corridor. So no, India should not invest in middle corridor. Let Turkey and European Union develop that. Let China continue to work on its BRI. India has different connectivity routes, and India should invest money where it is of benefit to India.
And how do you gauge the India-Turkey relations? This is a challenge or an opportunity?
It is a challenge. If you see, Turkey is far away, or as they call Turkey.
Yeah.
It has changed the name 5 years. Turkey is under Islamist influence, under Erdogan.
Yeah.
And Turkey has taken very hostile anti-India position on various international platforms. And Turkey sees itself as the modern caliphate. The caliphate of Ottomans, was defeated, and Ottoman Empire was dissolved in 1920s, followed by a secular rule by Kemal Atatürk, where Islamist parties were banned in Turkey. But now the Islamist parties are in ascendance. They are in dominance for last 20 to 25 years. And Turkey is coordinating with Pakistan on international platforms, indulging in anti-India propaganda and activities, whether that is about Kashmir, whether that was about India's entry into nuclear suppliers group. What Turkey and Maldives are doing at this point in time is to cut Indian influence. So Turkey is everywhere. Turkey is also part of so-called D8. D8 are 8 Islamic countries, which includes Turkey, Pakistan, Malaysia, certain other Islamic countries that want to reduce the dominance of Saudi Arabia in Islamic world. But these D8 countries are the main promoters of the halal economics that is affecting India's domestic economic situation also, because most of the Indian companies are going for halal certification and paying actually protection fee in a way to these halal certification authorities. It's a tax.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you are not able to export to the West Asian countries. So Turkey is to be not trusted. Turkey is I would say, not latent, but very overt adversary that is far away, and that is using international Islamic politics, promoting Pakistan on every issue vis-a-vis India, and we have to be very cautious.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. So that was all the question I had for you today. So viewers, as we have explored today, the middle corridor is more than just a trade route. It is a geopolitical chess move with profound implications for India, Eurasia, and the global economy. Will it redefine global trade dynamics or reduce China's dominance? Only time will tell. But India must stay ahead in this game. A big thank you to Dr. Adityanjee for sharing his deep insights and to our viewers. If you found this discussion valuable, don't forget to subscribe to Global Focus. Stay tuned for more export-driven conversations. If you have
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Sinha, for inviting me on your platform. My parting message to your audience and viewers and India's policy establishment is to get our act together, to get control back over Pakistan occupied Ladakh so that we have full control on Union territory of Ladakh and thereby land access to Central Asian countries through Wakhan corridor of Afghanistan.
So viewers, if you have something on your mind, please share your thought with us. We will be discussing those topics also. And stay tuned. We'll meet next time.